Hey folks, this is Rhykker with a Diablo 4 video on the best builds of Season 2. We're a week now into the season after some massive patch notes, after some massive changes, a significant season theme with a lot more powers, massive reworks to core systems like resistance. There was a lot of theory crafting before the season started. Now we're seeing how the dust has settled. We're about a week and a half into the season. And did the predictions come true? Well, I know that there was at least one major surprise. So in this video, we're going to go over the top 10 best builds of Season 2 so far, barring any upsets. Any new discoveries, these will likely be the 10 best builds for the remainder of the season. I'll provide gameplay footage where possible. Most of it is from Season 1, however, but overall the gameplay is mostly the same. On this list we have 2 builds for every class. And coming in at number 10, we have the Ranged Rogue. Now, we're cheating a little bit with our 10th build here in that we're encompassing sort of a couple variations. We're mostly talking about the Rapid Fire Rogue, but we're also talking about the Flurry Rogue that also uses Rapid Fire to make up for its single target damage, or the Penetrating Shot Rogue that also uses Rapid Fire to make up for its single target damage. And we're talking about the new Rain of Arrows Rogue that also uses Rapid Fire as part of its build. The Rapid Fire build is solid in just about all situations. It deals incredible single target damage. The Flurry Rapid Fire build, on the other hand, uses Flurry to do mass AoE damage and then cleans up with Rapid Fire. And similarly, the Penetrating Shot Rogue has great area of effect clear and cleans up with Rapid Fire. And the Rain of Arrows variant, well, again, to make up for that AoE, it's using the new Flicker Step unique, so that you basically only have a few seconds of downtime on your ultimate Rain of Arrows to deal that great AoE damage. You can find build guides to all these variants on maxroll.gg. Then coming in at number 9, we have a Druid build, the Werewolf Tornado Druid. This build is pretty gear dependent, but once you have that gear together, it's a very simple build to play. You just spam tornadoes. You absolutely do, however, need a Tempest Roar. Your base Storm skills are now also Werewolf skills, and you absolutely need the Direwolf's offensive aspect, which changes Grizzly Rage into a skill that transforms you into a Dire Werewolf instead of a Werebear. You get a massive 50% spirit cost reduction bonus, which really lets you spam those tornadoes. That combined with the Tempest Roar, where on lucky hit, Storm skills have up to a 25% chance to grant 4 spirit, you basically never run out of spirit. If you just want to spam tornadoes all over the screen, destroying all monsters around, this is the build. Coming in at number 8, we have a Barbarian build, the Deathblow Barbarian, aka the Walking Arsenal Barbarian. Deathblow is absolutely insane in Season 2. We make use of the Overkill unique item. Deathblow creates a shockwave, dealing 38% of its base damage to enemies. Enemies who die to this effect also reset Deathblow's cooldown. So we're taking Deathblow, which is a really strong skill but only a single target skill, and now making it a multi-target skill. If you want to maximize your effectiveness with this build, it requires juggling a few skills. The Walking Arsenal passive makes it such that when you deal direct damage with a two-handed bludgeoning weapon, two-handed slashing, or dual-wielding weapons, you get a 10% increased damage bonus for 8 seconds, and with all 3 damage bonuses active, you gain an additional 15% increased damage bonus. We're also working in Earthstriker's aspect. After swapping weapons 8 times, your next skill will overpower and deal 50% increased overpower damage. So when all these things line up, your death blows could be one-shotting elites and even bosses. If you want to be One Punch Man, killing the meanest bosses with a single hit, this is the build for you. Coming in at number 7, we have something that was a surprise to me, rising up the Bloodlance Necromancer. Bone Spear Necro took a hit. It's still viable, but we're going to give the edge right now, in fact, to Bloodlance. Bone Spear stocks are going down. Bloodlance stocks are on the rise. It really benefits from the buff to overpower in Season 2. Not only can it put out tons of damage, it's also the tankiest Necromancer build. Bloodlance is a super spammy power. It costs very little essence, so you can be spamming away, clicking to your heart's content. It is a pretty gear dependent build, however, and the mechanics are a little unintuitive. When you strike an enemy with Bloodlance, that lance stays in the enemy for 3 seconds. Then when you hit another enemy with a new blood lance, all other targets that still have lances in them, they also take damage again. It's like shared misery. And this extra damage on already lanced targets, this could also trigger all the same effects from aspects and from your skill tree, your paragons, that would normally trigger on hitting an enemy with blood lance. So counterintuitively, normally you want to focus fire down one target. With this skill, you want to spread and you want to tag every enemy you can as rapidly as possible to just spread that damage across the battlefield. On to build number 6, a sorcerer build, Arclash. Cold Sorks are out of fashion in Season 2. Lightning Sorks are in. You already know what build is number 1. Arclash is a generator build, so you never have to worry about resource management, you just spam Arclash. It does huge damage, but it is a melee range build. You're stacking a lot of defensive abilities here to keep yourself alive. Now, the interesting thing about this build is, while it's both difficult and easy to gear, you don't need any specific aspects for it to work, but you do want to be stacking specific affixes. You need tons of cooldown reduction and attack speed. That takes us to build number 5, our second necromancer build, the Infinimist Necro. What is an Infinimist Necro? That is not a skill name, right? We have this aspect here, the aspect of explosive mist. Blood mist triggers corpse explosion on surrounding corpses. When blood mist detonates a corpse, its cooldown is reduced by half a second. And this is the key to this build. You're dealing all your damage via corpse explosion and you are being blood mist infinitely. And because you're almost always a blood mist, you're basically invulnerable the vast majority of the time. So this is the necro build with the highest survivability, arguably the build in the game, the entire game with the highest survivability, because you're just untargetable most of the time. You do massive AoE damage, but you really slow down against bosses. It's also quite gear dependent. If you're looking for a highly mobile necro build, this is the most mobile a necro can get. On to build number 4, our second barbarian build, Hammer of the Ancients. Hammer of the Ancients is a melee area of attack build that has really benefited from the buffs to Overpower this season and the new uniques that synergize with Overpower, allowing you to deal some devastating blows. This build also comes online with very little gear. Gear improves it, and at the very least, to get Rock, you need an aspect of Ancestral Force, but you can unlock that by completing the Sunken Ruins in Skosglen into your Codex. That's what really increases the area of the Hammer of the Ancients. Boom. On to build number 3, we have our second Druid build, Pulverize. This build is super tanky, it does mega damage, it does it at a bit of a range, it does it in a pretty decent area. It's one of the best early game builds for Druid, one of the best mid game, one of the best late game, arguably the best late game build for Druid. I have a build guide for this pulverized Druid that just went up earlier this week. It suffers a little bit against single targets, but once you get the shockwave aspect, it's overall just dealing big damage, and it's very simple to play, very beginner friendly, very forgiving. Between all its defenses, its fortify, its life, and it even is able to maintain a lot of uptime on Unstoppable, so you're rarely going to be crowd controlled for any appreciable amount of time. It's like the best build that I can recommend to beginners, while also being just an amazing build even for pro players. That takes us to build number 2, our second rogue build, Twisting Blades. Twisting Blades has been and continues to be the best rogue build. It's one of the fastest builds in the game. It's got a playstyle that I find really fun. It's great at clearing area, it's great at taking down bosses. You're zipping all over the screen. It just feels really good to play, but it is not beginner friendly. It is a high skill build, and you are fragile. You are a rogue, you are made of paper, but all of its challenges means that it's really rewarding to play this well. You can feel yourself getting better, more skillful, and you're rewarded for getting more skillful and better in your gameplay. And lastly, on to our number 1 build of the season. No surprise to anyone who's been playing the game. Our second sorcerer build, Ball Lightning. This is the one that came out of nowhere. Back in Season 1, I made a Ball Lightning build guide video. At the time, it was a pretty good build. It wasn't the best, but it was very solid. It was the best Lightning build, but people slept on Ball Lightning. Now, why is Ball Lightning rising so much in Season 2? It's a combination of the new vampiric powers that allow us to reduce the cooldown on our ultimate, and some buffs to some of the skills, both passive and active, that the sorceress has with patch 1.2, plus a new bug with ball lightning that is not going to be patched. The devs have confirmed that no nerfs will happen to ball lightning. So for this season, this bug is a legit build. I would immensely expect next season that ball lightning is going to get nerfed. But for now, it is the #1 build, and with all these interactions, you're basically able to maintain a huge amount of uptime on your ultimate unstable currents, which makes you cast a shock skill when you cast a shock skill. So when you're casting ball lightning, you're triggering more ball lightning, and when you're casting ball lightning, you're triggering crackling energy. Crackling energy is going to replenish your mana, so as you're spamming, and ball lightning is an expensive mana skill, you are regaining energy so fast, you're just able to spam the heck out of... It's Diablo, spamming the hell out of ball lightning. This is the most ridiculous build of the season. It's doing 3 times the damage it's supposed to be doing because of a bug. If you want to experience what unlimited arcane power is, if you want to feel this power before it is taken away, because it most definitely will be taken away, this is the season to run it. Sorcerers, this is your time to rise. Once I'm done my goals on my Druid, I am making a sorcerer. When I put out my tier list of classes and I ranked the sorcerer, this build was not factored in at this power level. The Sorc would have otherwise been higher. So that is my top 10 builds of Season 2, but I encourage you folks to chime in the comments. What builds do you feel are the top builds? Do you agree with my picks? Do you disagree? What builds do you think should have made the list? Sound off in the comments. Thanks for watching. Special thanks to my Twitch, Patreon, and YouTube supporters for making these videos possible. If you enjoyed this video, please share it. Check out these other videos, and subscribe to join Rhykkers Raiders for more Diablo content.